scratch, wampum, dough, sugar, clams, loot, bills, bones, bread, bucks, money. Money is, at its essence, that measure.
Welcome to the Ozark Podcast, presented by the fine folks of the Joe Blow Football Show. I'm Jamie G., MD, Master of Surgical Arts. He's Magnum Mills. And we're about to break down the second episode of Season 4 of Ozark, Let the Great World Spin. And spin it will. Magnum Mills, this one was directed by Andrew Bernstein. It first released January 21st, 2022. This was the fifth episode of Ozark that Bernstein's directed overall. This was written by Laura Dealey, guest starring Joseph Sikora as Frank Cosgrove Jr., Bruno Brachard as Navarro's priest, Eric Layden as Carrie Stone, Katrina Lenk as Claire Shaw, John Bedford Lloyd as Frank Cosgrove, Nelson Bonilla as Nelson, and Cece Castillo as Sheriff Guerrero. Plot summary here: Maya pushes back on Marty's plan for Omar. Ruth pursues the hipster heroin market. Wendy tries to raise $150 million, and the new sheriff causes problems. Magnum Mills, walk us through some of the notable callbacks and appearances in this one.
I, for one, did not know that there was such a thing as a hipster heroin market. So I don't think good for you. So I guess, yeah, those are things. And as far as things that were notable callbacks and appearances, we've got a couple here. First off, this is the first appearance of the new sheriff, Sheriff Guerrero, and she does not seem nearly kind of as pliable to, suggestion or bribery as the previous sheriff, Sheriff Nix. We'll see how that works out. And now we check back in on the Kansas City Mafia, and this is most definitely the first time we've seen Frank without his junior since Darlene shot him in that penis. And after his past experiences, it's really not surprising that his dad, Senior, boss of the KC Mafia, would not like to keep distributing the heroin now that Sheriff Nix is gone, because he will no longer have the protection of the police to move the product. And we've seen his trucks get hit before. Not a shocker that he's not really wild about this new situation. Another problem for Darlene. And now we've seen Jonah throw all in with the Snells and the Langmores, while Maya Miller has moved into the Bird home. You wouldn't have thought that one was coming.
No, wouldn't have thought that one was coming, and we'll talk about whether we liked or disliked that in a little bit. Mills, let's just do a quick general overview of episode 2.
For me, you look at this episode here, and this is basically what you would call like a table setting episode of a prestige television show. Episode 1, you got to introduce where's everyone at now. Here's a couple new characters. Episode 2, you have to get those characters into places where they can interact with each other. This episode is a functional episode. It's not, nearly as fun or doesn't have as much going on as episode 1. No, I do think that there are some good parts here. You do see kind of really the sides being drawn. I do like that they're being, pretty clear with it. You really like, especially the fact that now you see there's probably no coming back for Wendy and Ruth. It just does not seem that what could happen to possibly bring these two back together. I honestly don't know. And so as long as Marty is tied to Wendy, that means, Marty and Ruth cannot be aligned. So that, I think really is going to push the show to, a place where it's kind of going to be the Birds or Ruth. And, that's not really something I want to see. I kind of want to see our Birds and Ruth kind of all win. And, that's just not feeling like an outcome that could happen here. Again, it's a fine episode. I don't really have any major problems with it other than it's very functional. And everyone, hey, you've been married for 20 years. You got to have the functional relations sometimes. It's not always, your birthday or whatever. But again, I'm not complaining. And I think this is still probably a cut above maybe everything except a few other episodes in season 3. Nothing wrong with it. There was always probably going to be a little bit of a letdown coming out of the premiere here. So it's not an episode that I'm really going to bag out, but it's probably not one when I'm rewatching is going to be one of my, favorite of, especially this, first half of season 4.
Yeah, Magnum Mills, I would generally agree. A couple of things here for me. You mentioned what would be the thing to kind of get over the deep hatred with Wendy and Ruth, and it is deep, and so deep it put her ass to sleep. I mean, it's bad. The only thing here that's interesting is Jonah. Could it be at risk of completely losing Jonah? Wendy breaks a little bit, and Ruth accepts Wendy, and therefore Jonah does. I mean, maybe, like, that's the only interesting component here for me is Jonah. He's really the wild card in what's going to happen with that, because eventually he's going to have to pick a side. And even though it looks like he's picking Ruth and them now, I think Ruth is going to be put in a bind here, because I just don't know how long this thing stretches with Darlene. And the whole thing is with Casey Mafia. I liked this. I kind of wish we had more Frank and Frank Jr. They're characters that I enjoy generally, and I like the storyline, and it makes it somewhat believable when you start getting into distribution and transportation and unions and shit like that. I mean, it's just, I thought it was a natural thing to bring the KC Mafia into this, and I do like Frank and Frank Jr. The one thing here, though, is yes, they're out of it because they don't have the protection of Nix. What they don't know is the cartel does not want anyone moving heroin, does not want Darlene. So I have a suspicion here that maybe with their plan to do it through Ruth and them, maybe the cartel catches on there, and Ruth gets forced, and there's drama that builds because Darlene's never going to back down to the cartel. Also Wyatt, right? That's what's interesting is you mentioned we have sides clearly being drawn, but we also have fragments and cracks in each side where it's not as clear cut, I think, as it's made out to be. And that's a sign of a good show. So for me, this was a good episode. Several things didn't work. Let's talk about some of the likes, Magnum Mills. What really stood out to you here as a like or two?
Probably not a shocker, but again, I felt this was kind of Wendy and Ruth's episode for the most part. It does seem kind of like with the season, the females are driving the action a little bit. And honestly, they're probably the best characters in the show. So I think that's working for me. The Jonah thing, I think, is still working for me. You don't get maybe as much of it here, but I like the idea that he's really like, this isn't just, he's not trying to make a point or something. Like, you kind of think maybe that's what Charlotte was doing with her whole emancipation thing, because she came back like Jonah, he's sticking to his guns here. So I do like that. I kind of like that Frank Jr. shows back up and he's kind of like cowed. Like, he literally like tells his dad, like, well, I'm still willing to work with her and she blew my dick off. I'm like, damn, dude, I guess that's all you gotta do is blow a dude's dick off. And like, now he like, so again, that goes to show like Marty, they really fucked up by not retaliating for Ruth there, because yeah, that's all it took to get Ruth on your side, and then you'd still have the mob on your side. I mean, yeah, that was probably a poor call right there. Did not love that one. And I had one more thing here that I liked. Oh yeah, that Sam shows up back at the casino, but now he's like just pissing his own money away. And he's like, oh yeah, but I'm this close to establishing a system or whatever. Like, yeah, dude, like, of course he went from, nice guy, whatever, then he's managing the strip club, then he gets paid to lose money, to now like he's married to a stripper and actively losing money. So not great, but I think it's a fun turn for the character.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I want to talk a little bit about the new sheriff, and outside of it not being, I like that they've got Nix gone here, because it created some suspense and drama with disposing of the body, and it involved Jonah and that continuing storyline. B, getting a new sheriff in here could do a couple of different things here as this story progresses, right? She came in and she clearly is not going to be quid pro quo here and accept the bribes and be bought. So I'm curious to see what her relationship will be, if anything, with the Birds and with the FBI, if she starts to sniff around and figure out some of the things that's going on here. I'm curious to see what they do with her. I don't love it or hate it. I like the idea of bringing in a new sheriff, and it's more of a curiosity thing for me, Magnum Mills, about which direction they go with her and how they choose to use Sheriff Guerrero as the season, winds down.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with your take there. That's basically about what I'm thinking there. And I mean, I don't really have a ton of other things that, again, kind of a episode that you're moving the pieces around here. Is there any other, plot lines, characters, things you like, anything else that really stood out to you?
I liked when Navarro punched Javi in the face. I thought that was, and did it in front of other executive leadership of the cartel. I mean, I thought that was a really powerful moment, but I also think that it takes, it gives us a little bit of a deeper look into Javi. I think he's going to end up being a pretty important, profound character here as the season winds on, good or bad or indifferent. And that started this whole thing of like, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe he actually is trying to take over for, like, I thought that was really well played and I enjoyed that a lot.
I'll buy that for $1.
He's buying it. He's buying too. One of the things here, Magnum Mills, that I didn't like let's talk a little bit about dislikes. For me, I did not really like the FBI agent going to, the bird's house. That just didn't, I don't know, man. It just seemed a little bit like, if the dude from the cartel wants to know where you live, the dude from the cartel can find out. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I just, that didn't really work for me. I think they're probably trying to, like, I don't know, maybe add some softness to the birds or demonstrate what a good relationship they have, or there's kind of this mutual respect or mutual appreciation between the two. I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like, man, I don't remember. Maybe I missed part of this in season 3, but like, are we flat out admitting it to the FBI agent now? Like, we're not even trying to hide it anymore? Because we're basically like, I mean, that's basically an admission of guilt. Like, hey, like, I talked to Navarro and he wants to talk to you. Like, I don't know, that whole thing didn't work for me at all. And I was really disappointed because, I don't know, I remember season 3 where he's in denial mode, right? I mean, are we just telling the FBI agents now? Like, yeah, like, I work for the, I don't know, that bothered me a little bit. It did not work for me. Swing and a miss.
Yeah, that was right at the top. The FBI plot lines have always been the weakest for me in the show. This is a little bit more believable than when you had like the crazy dude Roy, like doing fake executions and giving informants drugs and shit, or what. Like, this is more realistic. But again, there's no way as an FBI agent you could be like working a case while living. It's not like you're married to like you're like her living with it. Like, no, there's no way on any level that's going to fly. And if you have a good lawyer, like, that would basically, I think, be more or less ground for Marty to get a lot of shit tossed, because this is just not something you would do if you were investigating somebody. Even if they were your like informant, it wouldn't make any sense. You're right. On no level does it make any sense. There is no consistency, and especially the fact that, like, there is no way. It goes back to me not really liking this plot line of trying to legitimize Navarro. I don't think they can do it. It doesn't make sense. It seems like, I thought when he was asking, he did it because it's like, oh, it's impossible, so they'll have to keep going. But now he seems to believe it can actually be done. And again, it's not a plot line I'm excited about. So now you've combined that idea with the already existing FBI plot line I'm not really a fan of. So yeah, this is probably, my least favorite stuff on the show right now.
And the other thing for me, and this is, I don't know if this is a like or dislike, but this guy Mel, is anything going to come of this, right? Like, that's the thing. The PI, like, he is continuing to be a pain in the ass of the birds, right? And he's showing up now. The FBI knows, she knows he's showing up, because are they doing something with him, dude? Or is this literally it? Like, pretty soon we got to shit or get off the pot here with this guy, I think. Like, we're kind of reaching that point for me. Like, I'm starting to just become like annoyed with it. Like, what is it really? This is what it is. It doesn't seem like it adds enough value for what it is on the surface, right? You teased us, whip it out and show it to us, kind of.
One of the things I usually like about the show is how they share the information pretty freely. Here, to their credit, no one knows. It's not like one character knows who he is or whatever. If I had to guess, my thought was he was working for the rival cartel or something like that, because it doesn't make sense any other way. But again, this is not really a spoiler, but the actor who plays him is billed as main cast for the season. So I'm assuming he's going to, stick around and be something. It's not impossible that, they'll do that. Like, you'll have a main cast character, they get killed off, and then they go out of the credits. But I would be very surprised if he didn't at least make it to the end of this part 1 of season 4. I don't know what he's doing. I wish I did. I hope it pays off. I really don't quite, again, I like the character kind of. He seems very competent and to have some plan. I just hope that by keeping us out of it, it's going to make it pay off in the end.
I hope so. Just real quick, what were your thoughts on the goat, dude? Like, it was a strange thing. I'm not sure. Like, I like it. I like that Ruth went and had this soft moment where she went and purchased an urn for the ashes. And in typical, like, trailer park Langmore status, she goes to, like, it's some like thrift store type place and picks out this strange like goat thing, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, man. Was this symbolic for you? Did you not give a shit? Did you think it was cool? Like, what was your general thoughts on this particular scene in the episode?
I would say that basically feeds into kind of one of my dislikes that I've had overall, and that's I never believed that the Ruth that we've seen would fall like this madly in love with Ben. Again, it's one thing if the timeline is messed up, if they were dating for like 2 years or something. I don't think that happened, but I guess it's not impossible. But it seems to me like they were kind of like hung out for, I don't know, a month or two or something, and
banged a
like
couple
once
times
or twice, and like they're like
right.
That's the love of her life. And this is a chick who like, she knows her shit. She's a boss bitch. And Ben was like, again, he seemed like a nice guy overall, but I cannot believe that Ruth went head over heels for him. And so I think this kind of carries over here, that for better or worse, the writers have decided this is the way they're going to go with this. And this is what, it's not the death of her father or something. It's the death of this dude, Ben, that is going to be Ruth's primary motivation going forward. And Jonas too, kind of. If Ben was going to be that big of a deal, I feel he should have been integrated into the show both earlier and better, even if it was just kind of talking about him more, maybe a guest spot or two, just like even on a video chat or something, just kind of
flashback,
the
something.
Idea of him. Yeah. And really, like, it just seems too much of the show is being driven by this, one season character.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, it basically shifted two of our main characters' direction going forward to finish the season. So that was tough. Magnum Mills, I guess the last thing for me here that stood out a little bit was the scene where Wendy, and we touched on a little bit, where she finds out that Jonah's honest with her about, I gave it to, where's Ben's ashes? Where's Ben? And I gave it to Ruth. And she goes over there. I mean, and she's just cold. We see Wendy just at her, rip your heart out, cold-hearted, ruthless with it. He never loved you. You were a long line of abused girl. Like, that was harsh, bro. Like, harsh, dude. And of course, Ruthie handles it like the boss that she is. But like, damn, dude, them words hurted. Like that was some harsh shit, dude. I thought that was not like necessarily good or bad, but just like real serious beef here between Ruth and Wendy that I just, to your point, I don't know that they ever get over it.
Yeah, and again, I enjoy the conflict generally, so I'm not against it. It seems, they were already kind of in conflict before the Ben thing, so it makes sense that maybe that set them over. I don't know. I don't like that Ben was the kind of the instrument of the way that it happened. I will say basically everything with Maya, the FBI agent, I'm just a little on overall. And my one note is that if this show tries to go too far and they fucking kill her baby, I'm out. Like, by moving them in the house, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh shit, there's gonna be like some hit and the baby's gonna fucking die, and like, I don't even know. Like, I was just like, you can't kill it.
Yeah, not Wilson,
man. Don't kill a baby. Like,
don't kill Wilson. Magnum Mills, let's give this thing a grade, dude. Season 4, episode 2. We only got 12 left, 5 left in this first 7 EP drop here. How do you grade this thing?
Fairly, I would say this is right in that a hard C, like maybe up to a soft B. I would say right in that, call it like I was gonna say 77 because I like the symmetry, but I'll bump it up one above that, because again, it's not like an episode where I have a lot that I really dislike, even though we had some obvious dislikes. It's just kind of a not filler, but a piece moving episode. So I'm gonna go with a 78. I call it a solid C plus.
Hard to argue that. I'm right there. I'm probably a 79 to an 80. I mean, you have to have these where it moves pieces around. I like what's happening here. It kept me interested. It did make me want to immediately watch episode 3. So, it's probably not going to be the best episode of the season or even this first 7 episode drops. But to me, this thing's probably hovering on a C plus to just a straight B, like maybe B minus. Like, it's 79 to 80 range for me. And I think it was appropriate. Maybe you would have liked this to be the third up, but I'm hoping we get some wows and as we move into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We like to count, and you can count on is finding us at the Ozark Podcast. We're on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. If you're not already following us, just search for the Ozark Podcast. Click follow on this. We're on all social media at Ozark Podcast. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show. Find all of our Joe Blow stuff at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show. Stay tuned, because coming up next, we're going to review episode 3 of season 4 of Ozark. If your money ain't clean, it ain't worth much.
so fucking focused.